we're here with Rob Brown from Create Cañon City, standing in front of the Cañon City Public Library. Can you tell us a little bit about Create Cañon City and your project here involving the library?
Well, Create Cañon City is a public-private partnership where Create Cañon City is actually partnering with the community to do projects of civic significance. And our first project is the library, and our intent is to completely restore this building, the Carnegie that you see behind me, and all of the 80s era addition to a modern standard. Bob Leck, a local builder, came to me and said, "Rob, let's team up, let's see if we can do some projects, some significant projects around town." And he brought up the library project. And his concept is really kind of a barn-raising concept, and he was trying to bring people together with the purpose of coming up with some creative ideas, and that was really the genesis behind Create Cañon City. There's people in the community that have a skill set that is valuable, and we're bringing them together in with the purpose of trying to do this project. So that's how it got started.
I've heard you mention before that this is a new way of doing things between the private sector and the city government. Can you explain that a little bit?
Typically, projects that are civic projects are done with public funding or tax dollars. That's their traditional way of doing stuff. But the problem is, over the last number of years, since 2008, when the economy has started to sag, a lot of these public projects have fallen victim to that lack of funding. So those projects, the economy slows, those projects can't get done. Those projects would generate jobs and so forth for local citizens. Those don't happen as well, so the jobs are lost. It's kind of a never-ending cycle. So what we're talking about doing is actually stimulating the economy ourselves. So we're talking about going out into the public, creating an incremental model, which is a very small amount of money that can be added to a business's product or service for the purpose of funding this operation. So it becomes a true privately funded scenario, but we're in that mode where it's no longer a public funded project. So once it becomes a privately funded project, that releases us to a lot more flexibility to get things done. I don't know of anybody else that's doing something similar. There are a lot of organizations that have used tax dollars in this particular scenario, but those are compulsory taxes. So we're trying to do this in a voluntary contribution mode. And so far, local businesses are very receptive to it. We've signed up a number of them already. We're starting to get that incremental model working. And we believe that as we gain momentum with those initial contributions and then these ongoing incremental contributions, we believe that we can fund these projects. And if we're successful with that, then that could very possibly change the dynamic about the way people go about getting projects done. And that's really what we hope to do. We hope to make a paradigm shift here and actually change the way business is done. And that's why I've made that comment a number of times.
Once the project here at the library is completed, do you have any other projects in mind?
Well, that's a great question. I think there's been a great deal of focus on this library project, and this is a very important project. It's important for this community, but it's also important for Create Cañon City to kind of prove this concept, to demonstrate to those that are watching that this is a viable way to do business. Since we started the project, we put up on our website a form where people could fill it out and ask for various projects. We've got a list of at least a dozen projects that are on there now that people would like for us to take a look at. One of them is this area that we're in now, is this Macon Plaza kind of an idea, which would be to close off Macon Street between 5th and 6th and actually create a downtown urban area for concerts and events and things like that. That's one of the projects that's on the list. We've also been approached about doing entrance elements at each end of the city, one at the east end, one at the west end, which would welcome tourists and people to our community. That's the type of a project. Another one that has been discussed is an overpass, a pedestrian overpass at about 3rd Street, so people could cross Royal Gorge Boulevard without having to interfere with the flow of traffic. Those are the types of things that we're talking about. I think the next level, those are more civic-based projects. I think the next level are more economic development type projects. So over the river, that is certainly a polarizing issue in this area. There's going to be dozens, maybe hundreds of projects that are going to need to be completed as a part of that initiative when that all comes to pass. And one of those would be a beautification project of Highway 50. So when people are coming through town, you're seeing the backs of buildings, you're seeing some dilapidated structures and so forth that could be improved very easily, and just kind of change the image, but more importantly, get that tourist to stop in Cañon City and spend a few of their dollars, their vacation dollars in our community instead of passing them up the river to some other location.
Something that's been talked about a lot in the community has been the lack of, or the need for a rec center, a public rec center.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I think the Boys and Girls Club, as an example, got a great deal of momentum from the local community, and those guys have done a great job of raising money for that effort, and I think it indicates exactly what the pent-up demand is in our community for those types of services. So a rec center or something like the YMCA type scenario makes perfect sense, and that's something we'd love to help with. But we hope to bring several different projects together, maybe simultaneously, maybe in parallel, and actually start to get to this momentum. We're trying to raise about $2 million a year for the next 5 years. The library project, as an example, is $1 million, let's say, of that. So that means that we would have these other funds to take on some of these other projects. The key is we have to put people to work, we have to use local suppliers, and ultimately we have to generate our own economic vision of this community. We have to become self-determining, take control of this issue ourselves, and that's really the goal with these projects, things that are going to help us be a more productive community.